the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Like, hey, read about recruiting, but like, don't live and die with like what's happening in January in college basketball recruiting. 'Cause it's just like things can change in a hurry in this era. So it's like, just keep an eye on it, see what's what. You never know, but like, don't just like live and die with this stuff. Where like nothing's truly over, because we thought for months, nah, Nate Ament, like that ship has sailed. Ship hadn't sailed, or maybe it had sailed and then it turned around and sailed back. Like the winds blew it back. So it's just, I don't know. It's just a silly time in this sport. But hey, I am grateful that Nate Ament is going to play basketball here in Knoxville, Tennessee next season. As we continue our season review series, we did Janiah Mashak last week, Ryan Sylvia. This week we've got Cade Phillips. Where did you see the biggest leap in his game from his freshman year, and what was the biggest surprise about his season to you?
It felt like on the defensive end, he took a bigger jump than maybe I expected. Like he was at times like a really good rim protector. Like he would meet guys at the rim, stay vertical, not foul, and swat shots or stuff guys. And there was times he got into foul trouble. There was times where, the defense left room to be desired. But I thought that was the area of his game he took the biggest jump, because you knew he was athletic. You knew he could jump out the gym. You knew he'd be a lob threat. And that was really where he got all of his points, was on those lob plays or those putbacks. But on the defensive end, I thought you had to be not necessarily surprised, but happy with where he was at in the season. And when it kind of appeared to me that like, hey, Cade Phillips could be someone that Tennessee could like really rely on this year. And this was at a time when, you have to think back, JP Estrella wasn't, out for the season, because this was in the preseason. It was at media day when you're able to go around and talk to different guys on the team and kind of get those one-on-one type of conversations. Me and Noah, my coworker, split up. He talked to the returners. I talked to the newcomers. So I talked to all the transfers, and I talked to Bishop Boswell and a couple of those incoming walk-ons. And one of the questions I asked all of them was, who's someone that when you got here, you didn't necessarily know much about? Because I'm sure they all knew about Zakai Ziegler when they got here, and they all knew how good of a defender he was. And they all probably knew about Chaz Lanier and what he brought to the table, because he was one of the most coveted transfers. Who was someone that surprised you with like, wow, this guy can really play? Almost every single one of their answers was Cade Phillips. They were like, yeah, I didn't really know who he was. He didn't really play much last year. You get to practice and it's like, good God, this guy's athletic and he can really play. And so it's kind of when you have multiple guys, like a good majority of those guys, and their answer was Cade Phillips, and it was pretty quick too. It was like, okay, like he's got a chance to be a big impact on this team. And that's what he ended up being. I think he fit that role pretty well, where it's a guy that comes off the bench. Some games he's going to play 8 minutes. Some games you're going to need him to play 18 minutes. And whether it's either option, he seemed comfortable. He seemed content. He talked about just the other day, there was no question about him transferring or doing things like that. Like anything he wanted to accomplish in his college career, he felt like he could do at Tennessee. So that's just another example of, kind of a Rick Barnes culture type of guy, where, you talked earlier about Zakai's not here. You can only do so much as a coach. I think the guys that he's bringing in and has brought in and have been here for a few years now and are now those leaders, or even like a Jacoby Gillespie who comes in and is going to be one of those leaders in his first year. Like, it's just that Rick Barnes type of guy where I don't think you have to worry too much about like, hey, we got to get these guys in check. Like, there doesn't seem like there's going to be too much of that in terms of like effort or being on time to practice or just things like that. Like, Cade Phillips is one of those guys, and it feels like he's the type of player that could continue to rise to. Like, you see some guys, they take that sophomore jump and they kind of plateau. I'm not saying Cade Phillips is going to be your go-to scorer by the end of his career, but it feels like he could take that next step too, to being an even more reliable player as his junior year progresses.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the leaders. Like, I think he's going to be one of the leaders on this team over the next 2 years. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be Cade's team, but Cade is going to be one of the guys, I think, who is a 4-year player here. And I don't know. It seems like I would be surprised if he's not one of the leaders. And to your point, I will say, I think there's a new thing every offseason, Ryan, where it's going to be, because I saw something about him shooting a bunch of threes. And remember last year in the first broadcast with Janiah, where it's like Janiah took like a lot of threes in the offseason, and it was just like Janiah put in, and I'm not doubting they did. I'm just saying Janiah did not end up shooting a lot of threes. And then 2 years ago, it was like Jonas Adu. It's like, hey, he's going to start taking some top of the key threes. Like Jonas Adu's put the time in. Jonas Adu, Jonas Adu did not shoot any threes 2 years ago. And I just feel like we're setting ourselves up for the next iteration of Guy spends a lot of time putting up a lot of threes for Tennessee, and then they're going to talk about an early broadcast, and it's like Cade's maybe he takes a little bit more because he won't play as much 5 and he'll be maybe more on the perimeter. But I don't think Cade Phillips is going to take a lot of threes at Tennessee. I have a hard time seeing that, but I saw that, and I don't know if you thought anything about it, but I was like, man, okay, maybe, but we'll see.
It's the difference too is like you buy into the Jonas Adu one a little bit because Rick Barnes is telling you how good of a shooter he could be. Like Rick Barnes was saying, I tell him every day at practice, you could be a great shooter, you could do this and that. You just need to take them. And Jonas just didn't do it. Janiah Mashak, a similar situation where I'm sitting at practice and I'm watching Rick Barnes have these conversations with Janiah Mashak about how he doesn't need to go out and take 4 threes a game, but if he takes 2 or 3 and he can make 1 or 2, that's going to go a long way.
Yeah,
those conversations I don't think are happening with Cade Phillips. Would they love for him to be a stretch 4 and help space the floor because JP Estrella and Felix Okpara aren't shooters, so you can kind of get log jammed at times with Cade Phillips and those two on the floor? Sure, I'm sure they would love that, but it just doesn't feel even remotely likely to me. And I think the number one indicator that I just don't buy into is that free throw percentage. It's one thing if, hey, he's hitting the mid ranges, he's at the free throw line, he's shooting 75%. He's shooting 70% at the free throw line. He barely shot over 50% at the free throw line last year. And
it was rough, man. There was some 0 for 4 night where it was just like, man, and you just wondered how much of that was his shoulder, maybe that played a role, but yeah, it was rough last year at the free throw line for Cade.
It's just not. I don't
see it.
I'll believe it when I see it. I don't really know where that buzz kind of, and that one felt like I said, the difference is you see Rick Barnes talk about Janiah Mashak being a shooter. You hear Rick Barnes talk about Jonas Adu and the potential he could be as a shooter. I haven't heard much from the Tennessee side of things about Cade Phillips being a shooter. That feels more of like a fan-induced kind of rumor that or a dream that's going around. They would love it. I think Tennessee fans would love it. I'll believe that when I see it. He's still a great player. He doesn't. Not every player needs to have a 3-point shot to be impactful. It's just I don't think that's going to be part of Cade Phillips' arsenal in his college career.
No, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like I'm not trying to be mean-spirited or anything. It's just that I've just noticed this trend every offseason where it's like there's a different Tennessee guy who it's like, this is the offseason. This is the year where the 3-pointers come, and it's like, I don't know. I don't think this is the year. And we'll circle back next year. And it's going to be Bishop next year. Next year, it's going to be Bishop because he's already, Bishop works really hard this offseason. He's spending a lot of time. He becomes a contributor like Cade did last year. And then next year, it's like, hey, he's locked down defense. He's earned Barnes' trust defensively. Now it's the final step. He's going to start taking open threes. And we're like, okay. I mean, we'd love it. We would love Bishop Boswell to shoot threes and make threes. But to your point, the 81 will always drive me nuts because I just think 80 would have been I think he is a good shooter. And I think if he had that kind of aggressive mentality and was a true spacer at the 5, man, that would have unlocked so much for him.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.